Okay, بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين، والصلاة والسلام على سيد الأنبياء والمرسلين. اللهم علمنا ما ينفعنا وانفعنا بما تعلمنا وزدنا بفضلك علما وتعليما إنك على كل شيء قدير. So, we remind ourselves, is Nadir here? Okay. Sister Sandra, is Nadir here just praying Maghrib right now?
He's at Isha. He'll be back in a few minutes.
Okay, fair. Anyway, Sister Sandra, if you can perhaps remind us from the beginning, if you can remember, we spoke about the Hadith Jibreel, right? We spoke about how the Prophet ﷺ was there and Sayyidina Jibreel came and he asked about Islam or Iman, Islam and Ihsan, right? If you remember. We might have mentioned then, and if we haven't, we didn't, we mentioned now, that Islam is easy because Islam is what you do with the body. So when it comes to fiqh, all we have to, when we talk about the formal science of Islam, in the sense of the rules of the outward, it's fairly simple because all you need to do is learn fiqh. So that's not that complex. And if you don't know the answer to something, all you have to do is ask. And if you don't know, and if the person you ask doesn't know, and they try their best to give you an answer, give you a fatwa, then it's not a big deal if it's right or wrong, right? It's, all we have to do is just basically try our best to find out what Allah wants us to do. That's all. So fiqh is not a big deal. All we need to know is learn what applies to you and know who to ask. That's all. It's simple. Iman is very simple as well because Islam, you can sit down in 5 minutes, someone explains to you Islam, and you understand what Islam is, right? Like you just kind of understand what it's not. Like, are we Buddhists? Do we believe in a force out there that is impersonal? No. Okay, are we Christians? No. Do we believe that God is like a human being? No. Do we believe that God, for example, chooses a particular race over another race? No. Do we believe Prophet Muhammad ﷺ is Allah or like Allah? I say no. Iman is fairly simple, right? قل هو الله أحد الله الصمد لم يلد ولم يولد ولم يكن له كفوا أحد. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is merciful, He's kind, He's all powerful. Like Iman is not very complex. You don't have to sit there and discuss it for a very long time, right? So fiqh is easy. Iman is painfully easy, right? Morals are not easy. This is very hard, like very, very hard, because this is the actual game. This is the actual battleground. This is the actual thing that we're talking about. Everything else is just the fruits of it. So you have Iman. Iman is obvious. Iman is obvious. You accept Iman, you become a Muslim, you accept it, you morally accept it if you have a pure enough heart. If you don't have a pure enough heart, you reject it. It's not that complex. Fiqh, if you know what to do, choosing to do the right thing is the hard thing. Knowing what the right thing to do is not very difficult. Choosing to do it is a hard thing, right? Well, you know that there's a haram to say those kind of words, but choosing to not say those words is something else. Okay, so this is when we talk about actual morality, ihsan, and ta'bud Allah ka'annaka tarahu, wa in lam takun tarahu fa innahu yarak. To worship Allah, you go through life as if you're standing in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala all the time. You act and behave and talk and interact in that way. And that if you can't, at least you're unbelievably mindful of Allah, so much so that you're always every single second saying, Allah is watching me. Should I do this? 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 Right? That's quite hard to be. That's the real game. That's the real thing when you say, that's the real thing to do. So the first two do not take a lifetime, like unless you're an academic, right? But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala did not send us to all, does not command us all to be academics. We're not all supposed to be chief justice. We're not all supposed to be top theologian. That's a particular, speciality. Just like, but we are, every single one of us, we're all obliged to be moral. We're all obliged to work on ourselves. قَدْ أَفْلَحَ مَنْ زَكَاهَا وَقَدْ خَابَ مَنْ دَسَّاهَا. He who has purified his soul has already won, and he who has just left it squandering in the floundering in its lowness has already lost. He's already lost, right? So this is what we're talking about now. So it says keeping the heart from vices. It is the duty, wajib, for every Muslim. Likewise, the keeping of the 7 limbs, right? And this is fiqh in reality, is fard ayn. So it says the vices of the heart, these include shak, doubt, which is doubt about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So there's different types of doubt, right? So there's doubt which is an academic point, right? I'm considering Islam and I'm just confused about a particular issue, right? And I'm not really convinced that this is the religion of God if this isn't really the case. I'm genuinely confused, right? So I have like academic points that I need to kind of deal with, right? That's something else. I'm just confused about something. But then there is an emotional doubt. It's not an academic doubt. It is, I have all the information in my head to come to the conclusion that Islam is right and Allah is one and Allah is going to raise us people from the dead and they're going to stand before Allah and the Prophet ﷺ is the last prophet and. But I'm just doubting, right? These doubts come to my head, right? And they don't just come into my head and leave. It's a thing, right? It's a problem. So in reality, this is a wrestling match between the shaitan, right, and oneself. So it's a real thing. Because the shaitan doesn't want you to believe, and the nafs doesn't really want you to believe either, because the nafs has realized that this whole thing called Islam and Iman and Ihsan is pretty annoying because it limits me as a person and it controls me and it doesn't make me God, it makes Allah God. And so the nafs doesn't really like the fact that Allah exists and that you're accountable in these things. So it is emotionally convenient to doubt Islam. Okay? It's emotionally convenient, right? So if you think about it, doubts that, again, repeat myself, academic doubts, I'm just confused. Like, I thought it was like this, or is it like this? So you're just confused about facts, right? That's a factual doubt, right? That's not what I'm talking about. Here we're talking about the fact that the shaitan and the nafs are trying to wrestle you out of belief because it's a problem, right? So for example, your son is asking you about natural medicine, and you're having he's quite a clever son, so he's got you in a kind of a corner. He said, mom or dad, modern medicine, is it perfect? He's like, no, it's not actually. Sometimes it kind of ignores certain aspects of your life, and then and there's things in Greek medicine or Chinese medicine or whatever that has better things. So then he says, mom, dad, or in Chinese medicine, do they wash their teeth with fluoride toothpaste? And they're like, no, that's not really a thing they used to talk about, right? I'm just making a scenario. So then they're trying to, now the son is trying to get you in a corner where he's like, oh yeah, it's really interesting. Why do I not have to wash my teeth, right? He's trying to get out of it. Or for example, hey, school, is it really the best place to go? School and homework, sometimes I see people doing homeschooling. So can I just do homeschooling? So your son is not asking you to do homeschooling because he wants a better education. He wants to do homeschooling because he wants to wake up whenever he wants to wake up, right? So this is what I'm talking about, this kind of doubt, right? So this thing where it's a moral fight for yaqeen, right? And so here, when you have the nafs, which really doesn't want to do all these things and doesn't want to change and doesn't want to this and would quite rather would prefer to be its own God, and the shaitan who wants you to leave Islam, they're fighting. And when you've got the nafs and the shaitan against you, it's quite hard. But if your nafs is now sublimated in that it's not a nafs and it's a nafs al-mutma'inna, it just loves Allah and connects with Allah, then shaitan doesn't have much of a hold. Right? So that's why there's a jihad and nafs. All of these things are jihad and nafs. There's a fight happening because you have these two sides within you. The good side, which loves Allah and loves the truth, loves purity and loves virtue and loves that which is high and beautiful and holy. And the lower self, which is, I just want to eat, sleep, have fun, pleasures. I don't want anybody to tell me what to do. I don't like this relationship that Allah is above me. I don't like it. And so when you have this, when you have these, these two sides, it's a battle. And so this is where these battles have to happen, right? And so in general principle, we can say, so this jihad and nafs, how does it work, right? Is number one, you have to have have good suhbah. You have to have good company. So your physical and virtual company is bad, you're going to be a bad person, period. Your physical company is people who are nafsanic, who are egotistic, who love pleasures, who love doing whatever they want, who are continually trying to find ways not to follow the Sharia and question the deen, and maybe it's not like this and maybe that, and they're really interested in other kind of discussions. And online, what you watch on TV, on TikTok, or whatever it is the same thing. You're going to have these doubts. So somebody comes to you and they say, I have these doubts. You say, yeah, those doubts are symptomatic of your environment. Get out of your environment, but they don't want to do it. Right. So the stage number one is you have to have a good suhbah. So you're having doubts because you have bad suhbah. You're around the wrong people. Al-mar'u ala dini khalili falyanzur ahadukum man yukhalil. Right, as the Prophet ﷺ said, a person will be standing on the very religion of his buddy. Whoever you spend time with, that's your religion. فَلْيَنْظُرْ أَحَدُكُمْ مَنْ يُخَالِلْ. So each and every one of you should look very, very carefully who you're hanging out with. Who you're hanging out with. So you're on who you following your TikTok, Instagram, what kind of films you watch, what kind of TV you watch. That world is you. Right? That is you. Simple as that. Okay? So if you want to have that, so you need to have good suhbah. You need to be connecting with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in dua, in dhikr, in your salah. You need to connect in your Quran. You need to actually talk to Allah, building a relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And you have to be fighting yourself. The thought comes in, astaghfirullah, not going to do that again. Right? You have to fight yourself. You have to be there as a nafs al-lawama, right? The self-reproaching soul that says, no, that's not me. Right? Because if there's no fight, then you're not going to change. So you have to have good suhbah, good company. That means getting off 90% of television, TV, 90% of social media, 90% of people you're around, editing them out of your life. They have to get out of your life because they're just going to kill you. A. B, what do we say, is connecting with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, making dhikr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, not just saying words, right? But you're actually making dhikr, like subhanallah, you mean it. Alhamdulillah, you mean it. Fatiha, you mean it. In sujood, you feel it, etc. You're actually doing something. It's not just physically things, but actually connecting with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in your Quran, etc. The last page of the Quran that you're reading, a verse here, there's something, look it up in English, make dua about it, connect with it somehow. So there's a daily conversation between you and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Okay, this relationship is building, and the fight. You have to have that fight. But if those three things aren't happening, you've got the wrong company, you're not talking to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and you're not fighting against yourself, then goodbye. Then this is a pointless class to do. Right? You're not going to change. Right? And most people, they don't want to do it. They don't want to do it. Right? They're like an alcoholic who just wants to hang out with alcoholics. And so obviously you're going to be an alcoholic because that's what everyone's doing. Someone who's somebody who's involved in drug abuse around other similar people, right? So you're smoker, someone who smokes among other people who smoke. You're just going to do the same thing. But you need to cut out 99% of people and 99% of media, meaning 99% of television, 99% of books that you're reading, 99% of social media that you're exposed to, right? But people don't want to do it because they love the dunya. بل تؤثرون الحياة الدنيا والآخرة خير وأبقى. But rather you prefer the dunya, even though the akhirah is better for you. And so they don't change. And then they are continually in stage 4 cancer with whatever problem they have. Right? They're continually in stage 4 cancer, and they are all continually falling into sin and then getting closer and closer to kufr, and it's a very dangerous situation to be in. So we have to have those three things. Edit your environment. Look at the people around you. Are these people who increase your yaqeen in Allah? Yes or no? If they're not, cut them out of your life. You can give emotionally to many people, but you can take emotionally from basically zero, 1%, or if at all, right? 1% of the people around you. You can give to your kids, but you don't take emotionally from your kids. You don't take on their hal and the way that they are, because they might not be as certain about things you are. You're there as a nurturer, right? Sometimes that relationship is with one spouse, not really on the same page in deen. Sometimes that relationship is with all sorts of things, right? So we have to edit our company, surround ourselves with good company. B, connect with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in our dhikr, in our dua, in our Quran, in our prayer, etc. And three, unwatun la sulha fiha, as one of the ulama described it, a war of attrition in which there is no possibility of a ceasefire. Nothing. Right? Doesn't matter what happens, are you going to be fighting against yourself until things are better? Doesn't matter if it takes 100,000 years. Okay, so that's number one. Number two, considering oneself out of the realm of God's plan or beyond His mercy, right? So if somebody does something good, they go on Hajj, they say, Alhamdulillah, when I go to Jannah, I really hope I see so and so. When I go to Jannah, you mean you're going to Jannah? Do you know you're going to Jannah? So yeah, of course I'm going to Jannah. MashaAllah, I'm a Muslim. I pray, I fast, I want to Hajj. So you're out of Allah's plan. Like you're running your life. So yeah, I'm running my life. I'm doing good things, and I'm alhamdulillah. What's the question? I don't understand. Say no, Habibi, it's not how it works. You are Allah's property. And of Allah's generosity, He gave you existence. And out of Allah's generosity, He gave you aql, sanity, and He gave you iman. He made you believe in Him. And out of His generosity, He made you righteous. And if He should so will, He will take away any of those things without a single moment's thought. He'll take away your existence. He'll take away your sanity. He'll take away your deen itself, or take away your righteousness. And you will end up dying as a sinner, an unrepentant sinner, and be thrown into the hellfire. So when somebody labels themselves as sheikh, as religious, as good, as guaranteed paradise, they are fundamentally misunderstood their relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that is a major sin. It's a fundamental thing. So the believer is in continual trepidation. I love Allah. I have huge hope in Allah, but I'm dead scared of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala because of A, who He is, and B, where I may end up. So this person is continually worried. What if I slip? What if I slip? What if I slip? And that trepidation keeps them going, right? The wing of hope and fear, the wings of hope and fear, this keeps the bird flying. But when it loses that fear, like I'm fine, what's wrong with that? Then that's how it falls into sin, right? And so Ibn Atta al-Iskandari, he says, أصل كل معصية وغفلة وشهوة الرضا عن النفس. He says the basis of every single sin and every single heedlessness and every single vain desire is being self-content. I'm fine. I've got this. I've got the deen is alhamdulillah, it's done, right? I'm a religious person. I'm going to Jannah. Like never think like that. That's disaster, right? That's a disaster. Never think like that. Say, Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen, I've done some good deeds. Ya Allah, please help me keep doing these good deeds. And you're scared and hopeful. Scared and hopeful. Okay. Does that make sense to everybody?
Yes.
Okay. So right, this is exactly the what's it called, the hare and the tortoise, right? So the hare become complacent. When you become complacent, that's why many people sin after doing good deeds. Right? Many people sin after doing good deeds. And I can't remember one of the it comes, if anybody's following my I have a playlist on online on the Kitab al-Zuhud by Ibn Mubarak. He quotes one of the Salaf, I can't remember who it was. And he said it's often the case that you did a good deed, and that good deed is your disaster. Or you did a bad deed, and that bad deed was the best thing that ever happened to you. Because you did a good deed, and from that you became very self-confident. right? Like I've gone on Hajj for crying out loud. I built like 20 orphanages. I've done this, I've done that, I've done so many good things, right? Or like I am a sheikh. Like how could I guide sinful people. How could someone like me can go to hell? Like doesn't make sense, right? And their complacency leads them into the worst places, right? So you have to be very, very careful. Trepidation, right? Continual trepidation. Go ahead, Badr.
Um, so I'm curious, knowing this, would it be haram or at least unwise for a Muslim to say that we have free will?
You have
I
free
don't know
will.
if that's
Yeah, so
that's
it's
going too
related to
much
free.
of a
You have free
cartoon.
will. We do have free will, so we believe in free will, right? But the issue
Mhm.
is, but we don't believe that it mitigates qada and qadar, right? And so that's not really the practical thing here, qada and qadar and all these different things. The issue is basically it's like a business, right? When the business loses its tenacity and loses its edge, it starts to sink, right? Like if you're not this business, like we have very high goals, right? If we're making 1 billion this year, we're making 1 trillion next year. That's our goal, right? And we're not happy with our results. We want like, whenever we get some results, we want more, right? Whenever it's like that, that's when the company falls down, as opposed to the company is continually looking at competitors. How can we improve? How can we change our get more of the market segment, bigger target, change this, change that. How can we renew ourselves? That company flourishes, right? Civilization, the same thing, right? Civilization, you become fat and lazy, and then another civilization takes over you. That's how it works, right? And so, you know, the luxury, etc. So that mentality is, so the believer is, you do a good deed, you thank Allah, and you say, "Oh Allah, please, please, I beg you, Ya Allah, keep my iman and keep me righteous, and you've allowed me to do sujood. Please, oh Allah, allow me to do another sujood." As opposed to, I've got this. Why am I even making dua? Right? I'm fine. Go ahead, Nadir. Well, Nadir, you had a question?
Yes, Assalamu alaikum, Sheikh.
Wa alaikum.
Question from the house here. There's I think you kind of answered it in that last answer, but if somebody does an action that is based on a hadith of the Prophet ﷺ that's guaranteeing us paradise, of one of those many hadith, how do you still consider yourself within the realm of God's plan, even though you want to have hope that this action will get you into Jannah?
Yeah, so what it means is that the words of the Prophet ﷺ are not mutlaq, are not just absolute, right? We've taken it as absolute, but it's not. So somebody says, whoever does this, dakhala al-jannah, goes to Jannah, i.e., whoever does this and is not destroyed by his own self-conceitedness and his being self-satisfied, and keeps on going and dies on Iman, will go to Jannah, right? So we all know, what if somebody, for example, does something and then leaves Islam? We all know that their deeds have come to nothing, right? So the same kind of thing is, that's why the Prophet said, "Innamal a'malu bil khawatim," right? Actions are only by the end result. So yes, the qualitative judgment of, like, how do you look at the deed is binniya. What was your intention? Right? It was sincerely for the sake of Allah, 50-50. It was really difficult and you made yourself do it. It's a very high, it's low, it's medium, etc. That's based on the niyyah. But how are you going to end up? How are you going to end up? So when I'm sitting here right now, and in my head, I know that I'm going to pray Maghrib. Like that's just a given. Like, of course I'm going to pray Maghrib. See, my complacency leads you to miss a prayer. It happens like that. You're like, yeah, it's not a problem. Whereas your intrepidation, Ya Allah, please accept me. Ya Allah, please accept me. You'll have this trepidation. It's a very different relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Ya Allah, please help me. Ya Allah, please help me. Yeah. And that's why, see the different attitude I have with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Like, Ya Allah, alhamdulillah, Rabbil Alamin, thank you, Allah, you enable me to pray Asr. Please, Allah, enable me to pray Maghrib. And please, Allah, accept it. And please, etc. As opposed to, yeah, I got this. I got this. Right? So whenever you ascribe to yourself the sifat of Allah, you're falling into error. Right? So being free of need of Allah's guidance, continual non-stop guidance, that's what it is. That's essentially what it is, right? Like I'm fine. Like you know, I don't really feel like need to ask Allah for clothes. That's a spiritual disease because you just feel like I have clothes. Like that's not a need I have of Allah, right? Or you don't need Allah to help you to breathe, right? So that's it. These are all spiritual diseases. Does that make sense, Nadir?
Yes, Jazakallah khair.
And then vice versa. You've done something shockingly bad. So the shaitan says, "Oh my God, you did something really, really bad. You're a bad person, really bad person. Oh my God, you're like that's really shocking." So the shaitan's using you. He talks to you with your own rhetoric, right? He doesn't come up with someone else's rhetoric. He is your voice. He doesn't have another voice, right? And he talks to you and says, "You know that you're really bad, right? Like someone like you, they did this. Like how like what planet are you on?" He makes you feel guilty, guilty, guilty. And then he comes up with the thing and says, Allah doesn't forgive stuff like that. Or you can't change, right? And if you think about it, many of us, we do that on a regular basis. People like you can't pray tahajjud. What are you talking about? You can't pray tahajjud. People like you couldn't focus in prayer. So you don't even aspire to focus in prayer because Allah couldn't do that, right? On a level of aqidah, you say, Brother Nadir, for example, Nadir, could Allah make you be 120% focused in prayer? And he says, yeah, of course. But then does he expect that, right? Does he or I or anybody else expect that? Our expectations are usually less because we see ourselves beyond Allah's mercy. Like someone like me isn't good enough to do something like that, be it in the deen or the dunya, right? This marriage could never be fixed, subhanallah, right? People will say things like that. It's like, khalas, bro, like, you know, yeah, there's hikmah, but there's also like where's your sense of Allah's qudrah, right? So in terms of your sins, like I'm a bad person, like I'm a really bad person. How could Allah forgive me, right? What's the point in even trying, right? I don't even pray. Why would I go to a masjid, right? That's the mentality of many people, right? I don't wear hijab. Why would I go to a masjid, right? Like why would I do that? Because they see that their sins are bigger than Allah's mercy or their norms. I can't focus in prayer. How could Allah make me focus in prayer? Right? And so this key thing is like, no, that's not true. Don't say things like that. Right? Don't say things like that. Don't think like that. Oh, I could never memorize the Quran. No, you could memorize the Quran in 2 minutes. It's possible. So in terms of your wird, in terms of what you should be doing, is you should be practical, right? And do things practically that are within norms. But in terms of your expectations, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala can make anything happen. Why not? Like be very, very like be almost ridiculously hopeful, right? And عند ظن عبدي بي. All right. The Prophet said that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, I am at that very place where my slave thinks I'm going to be. You think Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is going to give you something, Allah's going to give it to you. You're like, no, someone like me, I'm probably going to get like a C, you know, or a D on Judgment Day, right? And so you say, no, I'm the biggest fool ever. If Allah doesn't guide me, I will be lost. And if Allah guides me, I will be the best of people, inshallah ta'ala. Right? So very scared and very, very hopeful at the same time. Right? So you see, what a key thing, if you look at all of these things, is where you're looking. And ta'budu Allah ka'annaka tarahu. You worship Allah as if you're looking at Him. So somebody looking at Allah, they don't doubt Him. Somebody looking at Allah, they're dead scared of Him. Someone looking at Allah, they're super hopeful of Him. Someone looking at themselves, they're like, oh, I'm fine. Look, I'm religious. I have a beard for crying out loud. They call me Sheikh Farid, so I must be a sheikh. I must be good, right? Or no, I'm a really bad person, right? So they're looking at themselves. Don't look at yourself. Don't look at your past. Don't look at your future. Look at Allah and say, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala can do anything despite everything, right? So it's very, very important. And we all need a bit of one, a bit of the other, right? Generally speaking, we should have more hope. You should have more fear than hope, right? But some people need more hope than fear, right? Somebody, again, who's not religious, why would they even bother, right? We already know if religion is true, we all know I'm going straight to hell. So what's the point, right? This person they consider themselves out of Allah, beyond Allah's mercy. People like me are not forgiven. The sins that I do are greater than Allah's mercy, right? They say Allahu Akbar, but they don't really feel Allahu Akbar, right? Allah's punishment is greater than my good deeds. Allah's mercy is greater than my sins. They say it, but they don't really feel it. It's not really there. That was number 2, right? Number 3, considering oneself superior to other people, right? So classic. Allah tests you by giving you money, giving you intelligence, giving you righteousness, giving you looks, giving you whatever, strength, wealth, whatever. And it's very, very hard not to ascribe it to yourself. So again, you look at yourself, say, well, to be fair, I am more intelligent, better looking, more wealthy, more capable, more this, right? And on top of that, I don't know, I can do this and do this. Like you might be around a situation like, honestly, I can't really see how I'm not better than that person. That's because you're looking at yourself, as opposed to looking at Allah. Allah has given you this money. Allah has given you this wealth. Allah has given you these abilities. Allah has given you this strength. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given you this ability to communicate with people, skills that other people don't have, creative mind that other people don't have, looks that other people don't have, health that other people don't have. So when you look at Allah, there's humility. When you look to yourself, pride. So don't look at yourself, look at Allah. And so you see yourself. And so when you see, for example, here's somebody who is more intelligent, more better looking, wealthier, more established in their career, more religious, more, and they just see all of this is coming from Allah, and Allah has preferred them to other people, they just feel nothing. They feel small. They just feel like broken. Why did Allah choose me? It's so kind. Right? Why me over everybody else? And so they are a slave of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, as opposed to feeling themselves better than other people. Right? So you don't see yourself. You say, well, okay, well, aren't you better than a shaitan? Saying, no, I'm not better than the shaitan. Allah blessed me more than shaitan, that's all. Okay, Fir'aun then? No. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, I mean, let's compare ourselves to Fir'aun, right? Did Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give Fir'aun access to Tylenol, AC, Uber Eats, DoorDash, internet? No. So, right? So had you been in his situation, you would have done worse. So don't see yourself as better. See yourself as more blessed. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala blessed me, that's all. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. That's what it means. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Right? So you look in the mirror and say, MashaAllah, there's other people who are your age that they look way older than you are. Right? Physically, they look way older. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Blessing. There's other people in your situation, they haven't paid off their house yet. You paid off your house, mashallah, alhamdulillah, rabbil alameen. Other people, they're just not as capable as you are, right? You're able to get into a meeting within 5 minutes, make sure everybody agrees, convince people and get stuff done. Wow, you're an amazing manager. Other people are not like that. You have humility that other people don't have. You have stress levels. You can deal with stress that other people can't deal with. Alhamdulillah, rabbil alameen. Put yourself down. Alhamdulillah, rabbil alameen. You don't look down upon other people. Oh my God, this person's so impatient. Oh my God, this person, like, they just can't do things. Oh my God, this person is like, really has no taste in clothes, right? You don't do that. We look humble, right? Broken, right? And look to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, say, Alhamdulillah, Allah has blessed you, and that's all. Right? So it is not the factual observation, right? I am more intelligent than other people. Like I've noticed that, right? I remember I was in grade 10, and myself and my friend, my other friend, we were taken to the principal's office, and he said, "You guys, mashallah, are the best 3 students in the whole school. I mean, in your grade, sorry." So is that pride to observe that you're more intelligent? I've been in classes, right? I was in a class of like maybe 60 people, and the whole class, including the sheikh, they all made a mistake, and I corrected it. And I'm not even Arab. It was a mistake in Arabic. I'm not even Arab. So that means, right? That means I understand something that the sheikh didn't understand. But that's not pride. Pride is, it's me. It's not me. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has blessed me. And so when you see that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has blessed you with something, you're broken hearted and you're humble, as opposed to, oh my God, why is everybody so dumb? Like, like, why is everybody so lazy? Like, I can get this job done so quickly. Why is everybody so slow? Right? Why is everybody like this? Why is everybody like that? Why can't people be more patient? I can be patient. Yeah, I can do with triplets. They can't. Why can't everybody else lose weight quicker? It's not that difficult. Be humble. So alhamdulillah, so other people they can't do that physically or emotionally, whatever it is that they have. You say alhamdulillah Rabbil Alamin, you observe the blessing, you see it is your blessing, right? It's not that oh, I'm nobody, right? Humility is not saying, oh, I'm a fool. No, you're very intelligent, alhamdulillah. Or I'm ugly. That's not humility. No, alhamdulillah, you're extremely handsome, extremely good looking, mashallah, but it's not you, it's Allah. That's what it is, right? And so it's very easy to, so we naturally, when that our relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala becomes murky and we're looking at, right, we're looking at ourselves as opposed to looking at Allah, it becomes murky. And we see, I made that money, I'm intelligent, I'm capable, I'm this, as opposed to Allah has blessed me, right? It's very slightly different. Does it make sense to everybody?
Yes.
Right. So does everyone understand that key point? It doesn't mean that you look in the mirror and you say, yeah, I'm ugly. Right? You're standing in front of the mirror and you see somebody, like two sisters are looking in the mirror together, and one sister can clearly see that she is much better looking than her sister. That's not pride. Pride is, it's me. Oh my God, she looks like this, as opposed to, alhamdulillah, Allah bless me so much. That's so kind, right? Or intelligence, or whatever it is. Does it make sense to everybody?
Yes.
Right. Okay. So in that, and so for which reason somebody could say something like, I am the most intelligent person in the world, but not be proud. Because pride is not the fact that you observed. Pride is the ascription to yourself. I am the most handsome person on the face of the earth. I am the most intelligent, the most capable. I am the most I'm the world's best cook, whatever. It's like, no, you can say that I am, or for example, I am, the Prophet said, Ana Sayyidu Walidi Adam wala fakhr. Prophet said, I am the greatest of, I'm the leader and the greatest of all the children of Adam, and there's no pride. You can say that, like, I know that about me, but I'm not proud about it. I am thankful. It's two different things. Make sense, everybody?
Pride in this context is kibr.
Kibr, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so then what about someone who can't? So this question here says, sorry, I missed your question, Nadir. You said, is that a good adab though? About stating.
Yeah, so I was asking, stating that even though it might be a fact, and you're stating it with
so
full.
it depends.
Is there hikmah behind saying those things or not saying those
Yeah,
things?
in some cases. Some cases, I can remember like Imam Nawawi, he was somebody said something to him once. So Imam Nawawi, he said, he was talking about one of the books of Imam Ghazali. So Imam Ghazali is before Imam Nawawi, and he said, in the Wasit of Imam Ghazali, it doesn't say that. And Imam Nawawi says, yes, it does. I've read this book 50 times, like the book's like 6 volumes. I know it. Like I know and you don't, I'm not trying to say I'm intelligent. Like it's not about me though. I'm just saying like, don't correct me because I do know it, right? And you don't, right? Or someone's correcting you in tajweed and you're like, brother, I'm sorry. I have ijazah for so and so and so and so and so and so. It's like this. So you've kind of mentioned something praiseworthy about yourself, but it's not about you, right? And for many people, when they're fighting themselves over this issue, then they shouldn't say things like that, yeah, because for them it's like it is an issue of kibr, right? It is an issue of pride, an issue of this, like so they are they are somewhere in between. That are they ascribing it to themselves or they're ascribing it to Allah and being grateful? And so many times you should be careful, right? You should be careful, right? And so it could be hurtful to other people. Make somebody else feel bad. It might strengthen your bad side and actually make you fall into pride, which is a problem, right? And so, but what I'm trying to say is like, what is it? I'm just trying to say like, what the actual nature of it is. It's two different things. And then here's another question is, okay, what about someone who can't see those blessings is continue putting themselves down? It's also haram, right? Right. So that's wrong. So that person is again it's a different type of sin, right? It's all off, right? It's all off when you look at yourself and like, oh, I'm ugly, I'm so stupid, I'm so incapable, Everyone else is way better than me, right? And that's how what the media makes us feel, right? When you're on social media, you're like, you know, look at all the women there. They can give birth to triplets and then like lose all the weight in like 6 months and then continue their masters. And like I'm just here like, you know, about to commit suicide. Like, why is it that I'm so ugly, fat, lazy, incapable, and everybody else online is so amazing? You know, that's that feeling that it gives you. And that's really wrong. That's why the Prophet said, don't look at the people who are above you. Look at the people who are lower than you. Look at people who cannot have children. Look at people who have serious weight problems. They can never get rid of it. Look at people who have disfigured faces. Look at people who have this. Like, subhanAllah, you have amazing blessings. Thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right? So it's a huge problem that happens to people who are, again, on the phone or on the TV, etc. Okay, so considering yourself superior, showing off. So this then is 4 is a result of 3. So I am handsome, check me out. I am intelligent, see? Look, I know stuff you don't know it, right? MashaAllah, my tajweed is amazing. Listen to me I hope you heard me recite last night in Taraweeh, right? So in reality, 3 is a product of 4. 4 is a product of 3, right? It's a symptom of 3. Okay? It comes from here. So that's where you show off, right? And showing off in reality is not a vice of the heart. It's a vice of the limb in reality, because you're doing something, right? And I say that with a bit, you know, with it's not always the case. So usually it's like this, right? I'm reciting by myself, somebody comes into the masjid, and then suddenly my voice becomes nicer. So I'm showing off how nice my voice is, or how good my tajweed is, right? Or how much I've memorized. Look, I can keep going, right? So I'm doing something, and my intention is to show off this, right? So it has to, you know, it goes together, right? Or, you know, showing off, you know, whatever it is, like my car, my intelligence, you know, somebody you talk to people about money, for example. They're people who are moneyed people, and they're like, yeah, thinking about saying, you know, they will talk about something that seems that you kind of playing with, for other people will be like a huge issue, right? I'm thinking about pulling out my, you know, my 20% share of this, of like Google. I'm like, what? You have 20% share of Google? Like, yeah, not sure. I'll be able to. I'll come back when I come back from holiday. I think about it. For somebody else, that'll be like a huge thing, right? And they're showing off about it. So usually it's saying something, doing something, walking in a certain way, etc. And often, who do we show off to? You show off to your peers, right? The other people who have that same kind of thing, your peers. So, for example, women will often show off to other women who are of the same age, right? So you have like women who have just had their first baby, they show off to women who have their first baby, right? Oh yeah, I know I managed to breastfeed for like the first thing. Everyone's like, oh yeah, okay, and like she wasn't able to do it for the whole time, showing off on these kind of things, right? So again, she's describing it to herself as if it's like what she created her. You know, like, what are you talking about, right? They'll show off on these things. Oh, my child, you know, he just falls asleep immediately. They'll show off about these things. So someone on the same thing, so two people who are both doctors, two people that are both, yeah, we memorized that text in our first year of madrasa, and it's like, oh, right. And so people, fuqaha, will show off to each other, right? They'll ask these things, they'll try and use phrases that somebody else doesn't know, or refer to a book as if it's obvious when it's really an obscure book that no one would do it. So they'll do these kind of things. You usually show off to your peers, and you show off to the opposite sex, right? Because you are built to procreate, right? You're built to procreate. And so naturally, you want to show off to the opposite sex. It's very normal. And it's such a weird thing. It's, you know, inshallah, I'm trying to do a whole kind of playlist on this issue, but you know, people will show off to the opposite sex in a totally illogical way, right? So you'd imagine, like in the animal kingdom, if you wanted to mate with another animal, you would show off to them, right? That's what I know they do in the world, but humans don't do that. So they will show off to people but they're not even attracted to, let alone interested in being intimate with, right? So that it's just illogical. It's just a built-in thing. Women will show off to men, and men will show off to women. It's just like default. Man is doing something, woman walks past, it changes, right? Unless they've worked on themselves significantly. Woman, she's doing something, And you might feel shy is one thing. That's great. Feeling shy is changing because you're shy. But it's often, for example, let's say a woman's talking to her child, right, in front of a man. Suddenly the man is there. She suddenly become more maternal. Her tone will change, right? It's not just because you're embarrassed. It's also part and parcel of that is I need to prove myself to the opposite sex, right? A man is fixing a tire, and a woman, he's going to help a woman more than he's going to help a man, right? That's a classic thing, right? That's just like normal and default and totally haram, right? So this is really, really important because this is just super normal, right? Super normal. Because it's all part of this. So this thing, you consider yourself, you ascribe certain things that you have to yourself, and then you show them off. So these are all huge problems, right? Huge problems, and particularly with the riyah, because you're actually doing something, right? You're making a decision to do something, and etc. And so showing off, for example, one thing that some of the scholars mention is to always have a wird. So I'm spending the night at Nadir's house, right? You're in Chicago, Nadir?
Yes, تفضل.
Right? So it's like تفضل عندنا ما شاء الله تيجي عندنا تخطب في مسجدنا ما شاء الله. And so Sheikh Farid is giving this, he's spending the night there because I have to give a khutbah or whatever. And he's like, oh, Sheikh Farid, shall I wake you up for tahajjud? It's like, no. I have my alarm clock and I wake up 4 hours before tahajjud. It's like, okay, Sheikh Farid, if you wake up 4 hours before tahajjud every night, I have no problem. We go and ask your wife, is like, dude, this guy can hardly wake up, right? What are you talking about? So suddenly, when I'm in this situation where there's showbiz, right? And this is a real thing, like a real thing, not a joke at all. When there's this whole thing about showbiz, like, oh, your student is living at your house, and mashallah, tomorrow you're gonna give a khutbah, and I was like, Sheikh Farid, please give me this fatwa, and all this kind of like, what happens? Suddenly you woke up earlier and it was easier for you to wake up, right? Suddenly you wake up earlier and it was easier. Why? Because there was now this two-sided. One was the sake of Allah, the other one was, oh yeah, the student's got to see me that mashallah gets up, right? Or mashallah, Sheikh Farid came to our house and we put this thing under the blanket and he didn't even sleep that whole night. Allahu Akbar, right? Allahu Akbar, mashallah, right? And so like be the same person, do exactly the same thing, right? So I'll give you an example. Every morning I try and pray 4 rakats of duha, bare minimum, right? I'm in sujood, subhana rabbil ala, subhana rabbil ala, subhana, I get up straight away. Because I'm at work, it's very difficult for me to get those 4 rakats done anyway. So I'm always trying to get them done, and I do bare minimum. Why are you not extending your sujood? Well, because a woman's walking past. Because one of your students is there and you need to show off that you're religious. Don't do it. Do exactly the same thing every single time. This is the amount of Quran that you do. This is the kind of word you do. This is the kind of thing you do. This is the kind of that you think. That's it. Be the same person outwardly. Even if you have in your heart these feelings, right? Like and so a lot of this stuff you can't even identify. Why? Because you're just so messed up, right? And so some of these things, they take a while to identify, right? To identify what's going on inside you, right? And so that's why it's very normal for example, between the genders, showing off between the genders is just super normal, right? You go to a woman's house, for example. I'm not even going to see this woman. This woman's not even going to see me. But when she's vacuum cleaning, she's thinking, what will he think of my vacuum cleaning? What is he thinking about cooking? That's just normal, right? And it's not because, oh, ikram al-dayf, being good to the guest. It's because you're programmed to that. You're just programmed, right? It's a very normal thing. That's why we have to be super careful around the opposite sex, because why do you have a woman as a salesperson? Because the guy's going to show off that, yeah, I can pay for this kind of car, right? That's normal. That's a very normal thing, very normal and natural thing, but totally haram, right? And you can also have, and just talk about two kind of levels of riya, and I'll talk about something that happened to me personally. So one thing is retrospective riya, and this is very scary. So this is not really an action, right? But imagine this, right? Nadir is fasting Mondays and Thursdays, but nobody knows about it apart from his wife. Okay. Then we find out about it through his wife, and he finds out that we found out about it, and he feels good. There's a kind of glow, a good feeling that he has, right? What's that called? That's called retrospective riyah. Like, you know, it's like it's like he's working out at the gym, right? Sorry to pick on Dad because I see his just see the name here, just as a person, right? He's working out at the gym and nobody could see him, right? And then later on, he realized that somebody saw him, and he's happy that person saw him. That yeah, like, yeah, I can do this, I can push these weights or whatever it is. So you showed off in retrospect, meaning just the way you are is you are now happier that those people saw that. And it's not like, for example, mashallah, my students saw me and now they're going to learn, right? Like I will do that with my kids. I'll be like, you know, I'm steady as sitting down and drinking. Watch me, right? I'm showing off to them. You know, I want them to see it so that they copy me. Not that, for example, that I'm trying to show off to my kids. But that kind of thing is like, oh yeah, I'm now happier. So you have this good feeling. Like, what is that good feeling? Like in a lot of these things, there's all these feelings that you don't know what's going on, right? And you need to know what it is. You need to know like what are these things happening in me, right? You have to work on yourself a lot. So anyway, so that's pretty scary, right? And so what it means then, right? What it means then, like let's take an analogy, okay? A private conversation between you and your wife, okay, in which you demonstrated sincerity and devotion and loyalty and genuine like care, right? Is it private or is it not private? It's private. And it's private and therefore it's special and it's meaningful. When now you found out that was recorded and put on social media and know these other women hear what you said to it, and now you're happy that these other women heard what you said, it means that your relationship with your wife is zero. Because there was nothing special about it. Now that you feel, oh, I'm glad that they heard me. He's such a romantic guy. Has such a good akhlaq. Wow, what a nice husband he would be, right? When you have that feeling, it means your relationship with your wife is zero. Like that, there was nothing private about it, as opposed to you feel really hurt that it's now become public. That was private. That was between you and her. It was special and unique and private. So the same thing with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Ibadah is private by default, right? You pray your sunnahs privately. You cry to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala privately. You connect with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala privately. When it's like, oh, I'm so glad that other people heard me crying, right? It's like, where's that? Okay, so what it means is that you basically are a messed up individual, right? It means that it's like those people who go out, you know, with their girlfriend or the boyfriend, and then they just want to be seen by others. Hey, look who I'm with. You know, their relationship is not a relationship. 1 second, Mike. Sorry, my kids are all here now to ask them to leave. Okay, so that's a problem, right? It's a problem, and so that's what we have. It's in reality, it's like it's just a way of being. That's why we're talking about vices of the heart. It's not. Some of it is an action. Some of it just like the way you are. You're just messed up, right? You're just like a really messed up person. May Allah protect us all. Another thing then is showing off to yourself, right? And I just want to give an example of this, and it kind of demonstrates two things, right? So I was this, you know, young guy doing everything perfect, mashallah. I'm doing this dua and this dua and this prayer and that prayer and all these different things, whatever. And I was getting it for tahajjud. And then one day I missed tahajjud. And I felt like awkward, right? And these are this thing, I mentioned that before, these feelings that you have to follow them and find out what they are. So I felt awkward, like, and I felt kind of like sad, like I missed tahajjud. So you can imagine someone with a pure heart, they're sad because they could have spoken to Allah and they missed opportunity, right? Romeo had a chance to talk to Juliet and he read it 5 a.m. instead of 5 p.m. and he's like, man, I didn't get a chance to be with her, or didn't get a chance to do something that would make her happy, right? That's romance, right? So someone with a pure heart, they will be brokenhearted because of that opportunity to please Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and not having had done that, right? That wasn't the feeling that I had. That wasn't the feeling that I had. The feeling that I had was like, it was like a kind of pain. It was like, oh, I'm not what I thought I was. I'm not what I thought I was, right? So I had ascribed to myself, I had created in my mind and in my ego an image of who I was. I'm Fareed, the one who does this, and the one who does this, and the one who does this. So I've painted an image. It's not an image for other people to look at, but it's my self-image. And I valued that self-image. I want to be this person. And then when I lost that, having had missed tahajjud, I suddenly wasn't that person anymore. Just like when you look in the mirror and you're like, oh, I'm not 16 anymore. Right? When you go to the gym and you're like, hey, you can't work out like those guys, or whatever it is. Like, you're not that thing. And it's like, it hurts you. Like, oh, my self-image is being taken away from me. And it hurts. So here, what was I doing was actually showing off to myself. The motivation to get up and pray was my self-image. So basically doing sujood to myself. Right? And there's nobody watching me. So this is a vice of the heart. No one's watching me. But the thing that got me up was the self-image. Be that person. Right? Be that person. And then I couldn't get up for ages. Why? Because I didn't have to, like, it cracked. Like, that was my motive. Now I have to have a real motive, which is I love Allah. And maybe I don't. So now it's like pure. I don't even have that pure. I don't even have it. It was not a long time I couldn't get up. Couldn't do it for ages. Because that wasn't my motive. My motive was, oh, I'm this. I have a self-image. I'm the one who always does what is right. Okay? And this is what you'll see. This person will be like, when they commit sin, they might have that same thing. They feel like bad. They don't feel bad because they did something that disobeys Allah, or because of their religion. They feel bad because of their self-image. You're the Maulana, you're the Sheikh, you're the this. How could you do that? Right? Or they get embarrassed. Right? So what do you think about getting embarrassed? Getting embarrassed is like, you're not worshiping Allah as if we shouldn't get embarrassed. Right? Embarrassment is like, should be in things like, for example, you're relieving yourself and somebody sees you, like, you don't like that because Allah doesn't like that. Right? Or you're embarrassed that, for example, you say something private to your wife and that's private and you value that, and then somebody, for example, sees it and you don't like that, because that's a good, healthy kind of embarrassment. But embarrassed, like, oh, you said something to your kids that was a bit harsh and then everybody heard you, and now they're upset. Okay? So that's not healthy, right? So you're like, the fact that you're embarrassed means for you, you're worshipping public opinion, and now you've lost public opinion. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Right. So these things are very, very important, right? Like, somebody comes to my house right now, they're like, oh, Sheikh Fareed just missed Fajr Maghrib in the masjid. But yeah. Oh my God, you're irreligious. Yeah. So the fact that you become happier or less happy when somebody thinks you're good or bad, like, that's off, right? So all of these things take a lot of work, right? And it's not just a lot of work, a ridiculous amount of work. And so we have to have good sohbah, and we have to be doing dhikr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and you have to be fighting yourself. Otherwise, you have no idea what's going on. You have no idea what's going on. Some of these things, they just take time to find, and you have no idea. Aman, go tell Mama. Oh, he's here. Okay, so next time tell Mama first, okay?
She's in her room.
I know, but you got to tell Mama first, okay? Okay, Aman, just finishing this class again, and then I'm gonna pray, and then. Okay. Okay, guys. So we got there. So we said Riyat. So this is a major thing. It was so being proud of one's obedience, same kind of thing. So these are kind of basically, it's like if you go to a kind of a spiritual oncologist, they're like, yeah, this is kind of one thing. 3, 4, and 5, they're all kind of one thing, right? And then we'll talk about the other things, inshallah, another time. So we mentioned those 3 things again. You got to edit 99% of your what you're exposed to in terms of people, in terms of media. We have to have a connection with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and we have to what? You have to be fighting yourself. If you're not fighting yourself, goodbye. Like, it's not gonna no. So I'll stop there. Inshallah. Sallallahu alaihi wa sallam. أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت نستغفرك ونتوب إليك.